It is Wednesday, my dudes. I'm here, and I've got Colin with a fresh haircut. Mine's joining the show. We got a bunch. This is UGA Red and Black Sports Report live from 90.5 FM WUOG here at the Tate Student Center. We've got a whole bunch of UGA sports coming your way for the next hour or so. We've got Mason joining us over here for women's tennis after winning that national championship out in Washington. We've got Anthony Edwards talking men's basketball to start the show, and then we've got our Adam Schefter for baseball over here leaking men's baseball men's baseball so starting rotation for this weekend. So let's jump right into it. Mine's about to slide in here, but biggest news of men's basketball so far this season. Number two, is he number two, number one? I'm seeing number one, number two.
Number two, by our rankings.
Yes, absolutely.
247 Sports Composite, number two.
That's the only one that Colin cares about, and that's the one we're going to stick with. So, but number two shooting our number two overall prospect in the 2020 or 2019 recruiting class predicted to go number one or could potentially go number one overall in the 2020 NBA draft. So Georgia pulled it off. Colin was skeptical, very skeptical last week. But how did Georgia do it? How did Tom Crean do it?
I don't know what I'm supposed to say to how did they do it.
How? You were skeptical.
I was, but because of the Florida State official visit was still scheduled at this time last week.
Yeah.
But then it was canceled, and then when that happened, everyone kind of knew the way the wind was blowing. Yes, I was skeptical because, as I was reminded again when they went on the floor last night, that they aren't good. But maybe Anthony Edwards watches this team is like, you know what? I'm the missing piece. They just need someone like me. I'm the man. I can turn this thing around and get this headed in the right direction. Other than that, I don't know. I don't know what it could be. Because
is that your only reason for him wanting to come to Georgia?
Well, he said he wanted to be close to. He seems close with his sister and his brother. His sister. He revealed his announcement by having his 4-month-old nephew, who's his sister's child.
It was cute.
Unzipped and revealed the Georgia bib, which was cute. Yes, and he said his brother also has a kid on the way. And being from Atlanta, I think he said he wanted them to watch him play and be near his current nephew, and I don't know if they are aware of the gender of his brother's child yet, but yeah, so
thank you for the clarification.
But yeah, so family reasons, and I think, and Tom Crean, he said two of his favorite players were Victor Oladipo and Dwayne Wade, both coached by Tom Crean, both top 5 picks in the NBA draft. Yeah. So I guess kind of all that went into it, and I think it must be what we suspected perhaps last week. If he picked Georgia, he wants to be the man at his in-state school, and he will indeed be the man because it is Anthony Edwards mania in Athens right now.
Yeah, I agree. And Colin, I was going to go exactly where you went in that he cited how good Tom Crean has been at developing big names like Dwayne Wade, like Victor Oladipo, both of whom were 3-star recruits coming out of high school. Anthony Edwards, he's already projected to be the number 1 pick.
Got a couple more stars than 3.
Yeah, a couple more. But, presumably he's a one and done, right? That's what you're expecting out of the gate. But I think, like Colin was saying, he wants to be the guy at his in-state school. He wants to come and to start a new foundation, a new culture. And I think that when he looks at this team, maybe he understands a little bit that, Tom Crean didn't handpick every single player on the roster. And so he's taking it with a grain of salt, what he's seen. And so maybe Anthony Edwards can convince a few other people to join him here. Or one thing we talked about a few weeks ago is that great players elevate the play of those around him. Anthony Edwards can come in. If he can command the locker room, gain the trust of the guys around him, he can make the players, the Nick Claxtons, the Hammonds, everybody around him, play better than they've played this year.
I'm going to go with a quick analogy in terms of how my thoughts on the state of Georgia basketball is at the moment. With Georgia basketball at the moment is Thanksgiving dinner at Tom Crean's house. He's got some people. He's got his family coming in. He's got people. And, he's got that 1 or 2 cousins that you really want to see at dinner, that you really need there at dinner, and that kind of person that'll get you through that dinner. And then Anthony Edwards is this, beautiful bride that just comes walking in of the cool cousin that you like, and she has no idea what's going on behind the scenes, I guess, and it's just being thrown into this this Thanksgiving dinner that typically you wouldn't want to jump into.
So what? She brings Does bring a liquor bottle and they're popping it? They're making the dinner way more fun. Is that what the analogy?
I'm not saying that.
Here?
You determine on what dish Anthony Edwards is bringing. I was just gonna say probably the dessert. What people have been saying that it's the cherry on top with all this. But what I'm most interested in seeing is he did mention how he is looking to recruit some guys, although he didn't say and kept it confidential. Do you think a signing like this how big of a game changer is it for the program, though?
It's a big game changer. I don't know how many more slots they'll have left in this class. Yeah. They do already have 2 other top 100 prospects committed, and Jake Juan Walton and Tumani Camara, who are both very good prospects in their own right. So this is already a really strong recruiting class. If they can add another 4-star recruit that maybe Anthony Edwards could help get over the finish line, that would make this a great, maybe landmark recruiting class. That way you got 3 other guys that could potentially stay longer than 1 year, even if Edwards is maybe just going to be here for 1 year. So this could be really landmark, and like we said last week, it could set the precedent of future 5-star in-state players coming to Georgia, because there are 5-star players in Georgia every year in basketball, especially in the Atlanta area. Yeah. And if they see Anthony Edwards come here and take Georgia to the NCAA tournament, they might be like, okay, I can do this too, and I can take them farther.
Yeah, and I would, going back to your cherry on top analogy, I feel like Anthony Edwards is the entire Sunday. He is that great prize. He's the thing that everyone wanted. He's going to come in and make this a good team right out of the gate. And so he's looking for things to add to it to make it even better. And so like Colin said, a couple other top 100 players in here already. And I think they're all buying into Tom Crean as a player's coach, as a developer, someone that can increase their skill sets, because they've seen the success that he's had in sending players to the next level and guys doing it at a very high level in the NBA. And so I think they're all buying into Tom Crean, into the system. And, it's exciting when the week after National Signing Day, all the buzz in Athens is about Georgia basketball. It's been a while since that's happened. Last Wednesday, we talked about Anthony Edwards. We talked about mainly the football recruiting class. And then yesterday, or Monday morning, I should say, everybody is talking about Georgia basketball and what this means for the state of the program. So I think if you're Tom Crean, that's exactly how you want to bounce back from the post-game press conference after Saturday.
Yeah, I was about to say, and Tom Crean making his apologies as far as that. We didn't have Jed on the show, but or any of the other basketball beat writers at the moment, but Tom Crean following Saturday's show definitely showed some frustration coming after that poor showing against Ole Miss, correct?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was not exactly the best choice of words, I'd say, at times.
Not good. To Crean's credit, Monday he did apologize for the remarks. He said that it's been on his mind a lot. But the remarks were, I was shocked reading them. He seemed to insinuate that he should not have kept all the players on scholarship coming into this season. But to his credit, he came out and addressed it. He said, I should have added that while I was frustrated, I still believe in them. So to his credit, he did come out and say that. This is not a public smearing of Tom Crean's remarks.
No, it's not. No, it's. I mean, he came with the apology. Seemed to fix everything with, at least from also listening from what Claxton said at media availability the other day as well, saying the team's closer than they've ever been after that incident. But when you see Jed send it in, or whoever sent it in, you're reading this and you're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, I was shocked at the post game remarks. That's not something I would ever expect to hear.
Yeah.
I can't speak for Tom Crean, but if he had the chance to do it over again, I don't know if he'd at least add the sentence about believing in them, like he said.
Yeah.
It was very, very shocking. A very harsh choice of words, but a little bit. Maybe the intent was to light a fire under the team.
Yeah. Well, all's forgiven now, and Anthony Edwards said it. He knows who Tom Crean is. Yeah. He knows that's not him, as he was just caught up in the moment. But as far as we've seen, and we mentioned how Anthony Edwards could be the potential number 1 pick in the 2020 NBA draft. And we've seen comparisons so far. Who are you guys comparing him to? I've seen James Harden. Is there anyone else that, when you look at this kid, look at his highlights, thoughts on who he resembles and who you're watching week to week in the NBA?
I will never compare a high school kid to James Harden. Just throwing that out there. James Harden is having a historically great offensive season in the NBA right now. I will never compare a high school kid to James Harden. Okay, so I've seen several comps for this guy on ESPN, some of these other sites. One of them was Victor Oladipo.
Okay.
The one I agree the most with, I think, is Donovan Mitchell of the Utah Jazz.
I like that.
He similar build, about 6'4", 6'5". Got the skill set to play both guard positions. He got a little bit of a point guard skill set, can pass a little, but is kind of like a score-first lead guard, really athletic and can shoot, and he's got some length. So I like the Donovan Mitchell comp. Donovan Mitchell played 2 years at Louisville, was a good college player, was a late lottery pick. Of course, if people did that draft over again, Donovan Mitchell would go in the top 5.
Yeah.
But, so I think that's a fair comp. Donovan Mitchell's, it might not even be fair to compare any high school kid to an NBA all-star caliber player, which is what Donovan Mitchell is. But, I think that's a similar skill set.
Just shows the talent that he is bringing, though, to Athens. Mm-hmm. Who do you think, Mine?
Well, Colin stole my comparison, so there's that. But I agree with them because I think that when Anthony Edwards gets here to Athens, one of the biggest downfalls of this team this year has been no true point guard. And so I think if there is not an established point guard, somebody that can command the court next season when Edwards is here, he will become kind of a de facto point guard, and that maybe he's not bringing the ball up every time, but if they're ever in a half-court set or something like that, he's the guy that has the ball in his hands commanding the offense, and that's what I see in Donovan Mitchell, a guy that can almost score at will, like what James Harden is doing right now, where they can say, hey, this is what I'm going to do, go do it, but because of the pieces around them are forced into handling the ball maybe a lot more than their natural position would entail. And so I think that Donovan Mitchell is a very fair comparison. And one thing is Anthony Edwards, he's playing at Holy Spirit Prep in Atlanta, and they've played some good schools, but the caliber of defenses, of opponents that he's gone up against is not what he'll face when he's in the SEC, and is most definitely not what he'll face when he's in the NBA. Even terrible NBA defenders are incomparable to a high school defender. And so I think Anthony Edwards will have to refine his game a little bit to get some finesse. I mean, he's a great player, and he's a raw talent coming in, and I think that's what he wants in Tom Crean, somebody that can see where his weaknesses are and try and make him that much better.
Well, at this time, all the recruits basically are just the highlight tapes that we've been watching, and it's fun to watch at the moment, but definitely interesting to see how that talent develops in this upcoming year. But let's move in a little bit and turn to our favorite part where Colin just gets to go in and we get his opinion week to week. It's an opinion we actually highly value, in case you were wondering. Very highly valued. But Colin, so far, just kind of give us your thoughts, your opinions on overall, quick. You've already kind of went over a little bit of this of the commitment of Anthony Edwards, but also kind of throw in a couple other things with the recruitments of George Pickens and where Georgia flips the 5-star wide receiver from that was committed to Auburn on National Signing Day. We skipped or weren't able to cover that last week just because he decided to commit literally
about 10 minutes after we walked out of the studio.
He knew.
Okay.
He knew we were doing the show.
Well, I wanted to say, if you watch it on our YouTube, Red and Black Sports, Colin got a phone call, and it was Pickens calling him to leak it because Pickens was listening in. So I'm just saying.
Right.
I hear you, man.
That's absolutely what happened.
Yeah, so Colin turned it down on air.
Yeah.
We had the option right there to, leak heavy confidential information. Anyway, so Colin, give us your editor's marks of the week.
Okay, so we'll start with football. We said on this show, I think we just kind of said we were unsure what George Pickens was going to do because he was committed to Auburn.
Yeah.
No one seemed to really have a good feel for what he was going to do. But, that kind of saved the whole signing day for Georgia. Otherwise, it would have been a quiet day. Their class was solidified as probably the number 2 class, great class. But that kind of just reinforced that, Kirby's always going to be a force on the recruiting trail. He's relentless out there. Maybe one of, if not the best recruiting coaching staffs in the country, the Georgia football program. And back on Anthony Edwards, his commitment just gives, Tom Crean is, this first year was always going to be, a rebuilding year, whatever. Georgia's not a quick fix. This just reinforces that even more. No matter what happens this year, everyone now is looking ahead to next year. They want to see Anthony Edwards and Stegman, see what he can do. So people see that's evidenced by the fact that we haven't even talked about the fact that Georgia just lost by 17 points last night to a team that was 9-13 in Texas A&M. It was the abysmal shooting performance. They were 3 for 23 from 3-point range. That's 13%. Scored 56 points, and blown out by a team that is a sub 500 team in Texas A&M. Georgia's also a sub 500 team, but one would probably hope if you're supporting Georgia that you can compete.
Right? The past couple games at least.
Yeah. Anthony Edwards has ailed a lot of the issues that have gone on with the team this year, I think, in the public eye.
Well, that's Colin's Editor's Marks of the Week. Thank you, Colin, for that. Now, the man himself, he's been waiting so long, waiting here. He's excited to be on the show. First time on the show. Let's give him a little... Can I build it up?
I'll just clap.
We'll clap for him. All right, there we go. Mason Cantrell. Let's go. How's it going? I'm honestly... I mean in the nicest way. I completely forgot how to say your last name.
That's Cantrell, and it's going great. Thank you. Actually.
It's going.
Excited to be on the show.
All right. Well, why are you on the show? Tell us why. Well, because women's tennis over here. You were the first national championship or beat writer to cover a national championship so far this spring. How does it feel?
It's pretty exciting.
Going
honestly.
to Disney World.
Yeah. I don't think there's a Disney World trip yet. They actually just got back to Athens, so. They may be saving that for the off season.
Gotcha. So when you're following all this, and where was the ITA National Indoors at?
It was in Seattle. They actually had a little bit of inclement weather this weekend. Pushed some of the matches back. That's why they were playing yesterday.
Even though it's indoor.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was very confused by that as well.
We have to get to the to the venue.
It was that
weather
bad
delays for an indoor event, but yeah.
Well, I didn't realize it was hurricane season up there or anything going on. Anyway, so when you're following all this, are you expecting, do you feel honored at all seeing that this team when did you start on the beat and when did you kind of get going and what did you expect this going into this tournament though?
I started about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So I'm pretty new at this.
Yeah.
And I knew they were really good, but pretty stacked tournament this weekend. They actually beat the top 3 teams in the nation, so anytime you can do that, it's pretty good. Surprising, but not shocking. I'd say that.
Okay, so who were some of the key players on this, road to winning this national championship? Some key matchups and the, highlights of the tournament.
Definitely Meg Kowalski. She's a freshman, and she stretched her record out to 11-0 yesterday. And she also won all of her doubles matches this weekend, which was a bit of a weak spot. They dropped their last 3 doubles points. And then yesterday, the highlight for sure was Katarina Jokic, their best player. Yeah. She sealed the national championship with a tiebreaker in the 3rd set. So that's a pretty dramatic way to win it.
Well, when you're looking at this team, is it relatively a young team too?
They've got a pretty good mix of players, but they're getting good contributions from some freshmen.
Gotcha. So when you're looking at this, what was the key matchup? And the big one, Stanford being standing out, but how close were these matches along the way, and how close were the road and these matchups that they had to getting to the final?
It was definitely pretty close all weekend, but I'd say yesterday was their closest day. Yeah. They had tiebreakers in 3 different matches yesterday.
Oh, wow. Yeah, again, coming against 4-3 against UNC?
UNC was 3 coming in.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, the final score at least.
4-3 was the final score.
Gotcha. So Georgia on their way, knocking off number 1, Stanford in the semifinals to advance to the finals. And what was UNC ranked?
UNC was 3rd, yeah.
3rd overall.
And then they beat Vanderbilt, who's number 2 on the weekend.
Yeah, but they don't have the re-rankings quite yet. But all right. So when are you going to be able to talk? When's the media availability? Is it planned later this week? You gonna try and speak with them, talk with them, get that national championships story up?
Definitely going to try and talk to him later this week. Yeah, like I said, they just got back into town. told us we could shoot pictures and video if we wanted of them arriving, but
nice.
no interviews today. So we'll have those as soon as possible whenever we get some info on when they'll be available.
Gotcha. And so how have how much longer until the outdoor season starts up though?
Their first outdoor match is actually next Saturday on the 23rd. They're playing Georgia Tech, and then after that they get into the SEC schedule.
Gotcha. Okay, so we're still looking with already one national championship underway. Any chances of that coming up in later in April or May?
I'd say they've got a good chance at the NCAA
Yeah.
this year. I don't know. Have to see how the rest of the season shakes out. But yeah, it wouldn't be shocking if they pulled it off.
Well, main thing is you are the first beat writer this semester covering getting a national championship team. So congrats on that. I hope you know it truly is. It's something special. Last semester for me was track and field, and when the women's team won the indoors. So I had to brag. I hope you do brag among everyone else, among your fellow beat writers, everyone else on the staff, because it's not exactly something not everyone's gonna experience this spring. So congratulations on that one. Well, thanks, guys. Let's give it a round of applause for Mason. Thank you for coming on the show. Appreciate talking some women's tennis, though. But coming up next, we'll do a little switcheroo right here. Careful. Don't bump into each other. We're in a tight space over here. So, but we've got, as we highlighted before, Janey, our Adam Schefter of Georgia baseball over here. I said men's baseball to start. I can't. Men's baseball is men's. I just.
Hey, women's baseball is on the rise.
It is.
It could happen.
It is, but unfortunately, the difference is being softball and baseball with this.
Okay,
one.
but they actually have women's baseball, so not at Georgia, but it's a thing.
Okay, until they
That's
get it.
what I'm saying.
I'm sorry. I'm terribly sorry. I know you're offended. Please come back on the show next week, though. Well, Janey was a big news of the week, though. You broke the starting rotation. Was it you that asked the question at media availability with Coach Scott Strickland? Sorry.
Yeah, I was the only one there except for a TV guy, so we got that shameless plug, Red and Black. We got that scoop. So, we got the rotation. It's going to be Emerson Hancock on Friday, Will Proctor on Saturday, and Tony Losi on Sunday. So a little bit of a surprise there. I definitely basically expected Hancock and Losi to be in there, but Proctor was a little bit of a surprise. But it sounds like, according to Strickland, that's kind of been what they expected going into preseason based on what they did in the fall. So, it should be interesting to watch Proctor out there. He's actually, his freshman year 2 years ago, he was a second baseman. And last year he converted to pitching, was a reliever, got one start against Clemson. It was pretty good. And now here he is in the starting rotation, so that should be interesting.
Well, mine's also on the baseball beat with Janey this year. What is your thoughts on the starting rotation for this weekend?
Well, when Janey tweeted it out, I was pretty surprised. I thought for sure Cole Wilcox was going to be in there, this highly touted freshman that comes in, throws in the 90s, and supposedly is a really good recruit, really good player, and I'm sure he is, but opening up your season against Dayton, I just expected that young arm to get a shot and that he had proven himself in the fall maybe, but I guess not. And Janey will touch on it a little bit later with what she got about the rest of the rotation for the midweek games, but I was surprised that it was Will Proctor, mainly because of how many starts he didn't have last year. He had the one that you said, and Will Proctor is a good pitcher, but he came in as a second baseman. This isn't his natural position. And he doesn't naturally throw 98, 99 miles an hour where he's just going to overpower everybody. And so it says to me that in the fall, he really took this job to heart and went out there. I think Scott Strickland and the rest of the staff said what probably every staff in most sports will say, and that no job is in Sharpie. Everything is up for grabs. You have to earn your way into it. And Will Proctor, I guess, in the fall, earned his way into a starting spot to open up. But at the same time, it's the opening weekend against Dayton. Like I mentioned, it's not a weekend series against LSU or against.
Your thoughts on just getting him some reps, getting him in, getting some innings?
I think he very well could be there the entire season, but I don't know that I would say in stone that, hey, this is the rotation for the rest of the season. Tony Losi's been in this spot before and then been demoted to a midweek starter or an exclusively bullpen guy on the weekend, and so I think it's a good start for Georgia. You've got 3 dependable veteran arms that have been around for a little bit now, but I was pretty shocked that Will Proctor's in there.
Well, yeah, and I mean, just going off on that, I was kind of asking Strickland about Proctor, what went into that decision, and he actually did say, he's a middle infielder on the mound. He can field his position really well, so that's kind of been sort of an advantage for him. And then also he mentioned the breaking ball, which I remember last year talking to Chase Atkins, who is now in the Los Angeles Angels organization, and he said that Will Proctor's curveball, 12-6 curveball, was the best one on the team. And it is really good. So I think the breaking ball, him being able to field his position well, and just Strickland said he's just been throwing a lot of strikes, so that gave him the edge there.
Push him forward with it. So we mentioned a little bit a couple of weeks back with talking the starting rotation and the changes around the team. Does this move and having this, adding that depth, how important is that throughout the season? I mean, obviously for apparent reasons, obviously you want to have depth in pitching as far as you go, but is this shaping, and now we're finally seeing Georgia turning into last year being a home run hitting team, high scoring? Now is it more shifting to defensive, focusing on good pitching, solid pitching, and that'll get them through this year?
It definitely seems that way, like that's going to be what carries them this year, because, you got Cole Wilcox isn't even in the starting rotation, not even starting in midweek, and this guy would have been a first-round MLB draft pick. So having that kind of competition, which kind of Strickland talked about how that's an advantage, that he's going to be pushing to be in the rotation. That is an advantage to have that. And by the way, just talking about midweek, CJ Smith will be their go-to midweek starter, Strickland said. He's going to be playing center field on the weekend as well, kind of platooning with Tucker Maxwell. So, yeah, they got a lot of depth. They said Ryan Webb was kind of close to that rotation as well, had a little bit of a setback. He wouldn't really go into specifics on what that was, but he'll be pitching this weekend out of the bullpen. But he's a guy that started several times last season, was in the rotation there for a while. So they got a lot of guys fighting for that, which is definitely an advantage.
Yeah, and to me, this is a year of results. I said it, I think last week, maybe a couple weeks ago. I'll say it again, because this junior class, I want to say there's 14 members that are juniors here. And when Janey and I were out there a couple weeks ago, Coach Strickland, unprovoked, he said, yeah, that was a third-ranked recruiting class coming in. There are a lot of really good baseball players, and, well, if a lot of them have good seasons this year, they can put their names in the MLB draft and try and go play professional baseball. And this is a big year for results. I think the players are here. The players are here where the foundation is laid to have a good, productive season, maybe build on what you did last year. But it's a year for results. You've shown what you can do. Now show that you can do it again and that it wasn't a fluke.
Well, you keep talking results, but what was the hot take that Aaron Shunk had that you guys mentioned before the show? What's his hot take in terms of results for Georgia this year, though? Yeah,
so I was talking to Aaron yesterday, just asking him about, so going into opening weekend, what kind of would you be satisfied with? What would you guys like to see? And I'll just read the quote. I don't want to mess anything up. But he said,
misquote him at all.
I don't think it's unrealistic to win every single game we play. It's never happened and probably won't ever happen, but I think that our team could potentially be that team. I think we're that good. So Aaron Shunk with the confidence out here.
So it probably won't ever happen, but it's realistic to win every game, even though it will never happen.
Thank you.
Okay, just to clear that up.
Why do I feel like you thought I was Aaron Shunk in that situation? You just stared me down. I feel like you stared into my soul, man.
I just looked up, and Quentin's eyes were right there, so I looked at them.
You focused in on me. It was honestly a little scary right there. I want to send you to baseball availability and just record it, set it up, talk to Shunk, and ask him actually if he truly meant that.
Shunk, I'm sure thinks they're a good team. There's no way he believes that. How many games they play? 60. You're not going 60-0.
Right, and I don't. I know he said it, but like Colin said, I don't think that in his mind he thinks they're going 60-0. But I think he has the confidence in the team that they're going to be able to win any daily matchup that they're given because of the depth in the pitching rotation. And the pitching looks pretty good from the outside. They've got a lot of arms that can throw well, but offensively, everyone has said that they're not worried about losing the production they lost last year with McGovern, Michael Curry going, and Adam Sasser as well. But who is that production going to come from? There's been names that have been thrown out there, but until the first few weeks of non-conference play roll by, you got to have someone that opens up on a hot streak, whether that's Shunk, LJ Talley, anybody else. somebody has to very clearly make up for that production. And it's not going to be one guy. You're not going to have one guy that comes in and hits 25 homers. You may, but you're not expecting that. So it's going to take a team effort to where everyone's going to have to be held accountable, I guess, to make up for those three big gaps in the offensive lineup, because at the end of the day, if you're not scoring runs, you're not going to win. I thought there was a great example of that in Major League Baseball this year, where Cy Young winner Jacob deGrom for the New York Mets in the NL, he won the Cy Young with a 500 record, and if his team had scored just 4 runs every single time he pitched, I think he would have lost maybe one or two games, and had a 20-3 record, let's say. And so if the offense doesn't score runs, the team will not win games. And so I think the offense has to go out, especially against these non-conference opponents that are not as good as the SEC teams you'll see come March and April. You got to make a statement.
Well, who are they open up with in the SEC play once they open up the conference?
I believe it is South Carolina, maybe.
Yeah,
I'm
with
not-
like a weekend.
Not 100%. I know their first home series is LSU.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, that'll be a tough one for sure.
Well, throughout the East and throughout the division, who were some matchups? Are there any matchups you have highlighted throughout that were a tough stretch of games coming up for them?
Well, certainly LSU is like a top 3 team right now,
Yeah.
according to most people. So that's going to be huge. That stretch, you got LSU, you got Kentucky the next weekend. Kentucky was a solid team last year, and then you got Vanderbilt at home. Vanderbilt is also a top 3 team. So probably that's going to be a tough stretch. And then later in the season, you got Florida, Auburn. I mean, the whole SEC schedule is just, it's insane. Like, the SEC is just insanely strong, like, every weekend. Like Strickland was saying yesterday, he was like, every weekend is like a super regional in the SEC.
And I would agree. I think that it plays to Georgia's favor a little bit, maybe that the series against LSU, Florida, kind of your teams that are consensus top 5 are at home in Athens, because if you have to go to Alex Box Stadium in Baton Rouge, that is going to be crazy with 10,000 packing the stands. Or if you're down in Gainesville in the heat playing on the road, that can maybe add some external factors where guys can have mental lapses that they might not have at home, where they're comfortable, where they know every square inch of Foley Field like the back of their hand. And so that might help. But like Janey said, it's brutal. It's a grind. And once you get into SEC play, the midweek games that they'll have as well are no givens. They have Georgia State in there a few times, but Georgia Tech as well, who we mentioned a couple weeks ago on the show, had the number 2 overall player in the MLB draft last year in Joey Bart. Clemson, who's no given win, is going to be in there in midweek games. So this team will be tested. And I think last year they proved that they can play at a high level, but this year, I mean, I hate to say it again, but it's another year where to prove that it wasn't a fluke, because you've got these high-caliber opponents coming in. No one is saying you have to sweep them, but if you can win 2 out of 3, or if you only win 1 and another game maybe goes to extras, or it's something where the game is tight and you prove that you are worthy of being an opponent put in that same bracket, I think that's what the team's looking for.
Well, you mentioned it being a grind for the team, but for you guys as well. Who all can we expect to get coverage from? How is that going to? What is y'all's starting rotation as beat writers? That is the real question. That's really what we want to leak here on the show.
Yeah, so we got me, Mayan, and Marshall White. We'll be out there at the baseball field, 2 of us there each game. I'm excited to get back there personally. I watched like probably close to 100 baseball games last year, and I've been missing it in my life, so I'm excited to be back there.
You're like the rest of the world when it came to the AAF. This past weekend they were missing football. Janey's been missing a little bit of baseball. So,
Yes.
Well, that's wrapping up some baseball news and coming up this weekend, starting their season. So we'll jump in a little quick, just covering all the rest of the sports and the other news we got coming this week or upcoming next week. So swimming and diving will start. They're hosting the SEC championships here in Athens. They're looking to, as we mentioned a couple weeks back, how they had a couple tune-up matches, had a couple losses, but also following the loss of to Texas and Tennessee. They'll be trying to find those peak times during the SEC championships here in Athens. So that's big weekend for them, or big week coming up for them. And then this upcoming Friday, we've got gymnastics at home versus Kentucky, and they'll continue to try and put on the same number of points that they've been putting up, close to 197 points each meet, which is just absolutely ridiculous with the elite scoring status that they've kind of supported themselves with. And then we got women's basketball coming up Thursday. They're coming off a season high 93 points against Florida this past Sunday. they got to win it all going forward. I mean, in order to just save the season, make something out of the season at least compared to the past. So women's basketball with a big game and big stretch coming up here soon. And then softball was 4-1 in opening weekend. Lost to Indiana. Did you watch any of that or followed any of your old beat?
I was just kind of surprised that they lost. I mean, number 6, number 7 team, depending on which poll you looked at coming into the year. Obviously, Indiana, Power 5 opponent, good school, but in terms of softball talent. But I just didn't expect that loss to happen. I want to say the final might have been 6-4.
6-4.
Yeah, so 6-4 final. So close game, but kind of you would expect the team to win those close games. Alyssa DiCarlo, we talked about her a couple weeks ago. Couple home runs, couple extra base hits, really doing it all offensively. But 5 more games this weekend. I think they've got 4 home tournaments this year, and a couple of them are against opponents this weekend. They'll have Winthrop, I think Buffalo is in town as well as some other schools. And so 5 very winnable games. Yeah,
and then just getting some tune-up matches almost before SEC play as well. And then we've got men's golf down in Puerto Rico next week. I think women's golf was there this past week, and they'll be coming or headed down there. Man, that's the life right there. Playing golf middle of the week. Everyone else is or middle of February. Puerto Rico, actually warm weather.
Going towards the warm weather, not away from it. Yeah,
I think I missed my calling. I definitely think I should have started earlier, like Tiger Woods level.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Colin.
In that case, you would have been there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. I'm sorry. I would have. Missed the show. So, but anyway, and then we got men's basketball. I know Colin's favorite team. It's going to be playing LSU at home Saturday. LSU coming off the last. Did you guys watch that game?
I did. Crazy game,
right?
Yes,
crazy. LSU, knocking off top Kentucky in the last second buzzer beater.
Kentucky got gypped.
They did, but I'm going to have to hold this L right here because on our first show, I openly doubted the way LSU is building their team with these 5 stars that I thought maybe they were punching a little too hard to start out under Will Wade. They sure aren't. They're 10-1 in SEC play. They're right there in play for the SEC title. They're assuming they take care of Georgia on Saturday. They will move into the top 15 of the rankings. They're legit. They're a real national contender. They've got players everywhere. Tremont Waters, their pair of freshman bigs, Naz Reid and Emmett Williams, are both just awesome. 2 5 stars. And they look like maybe they could be guys that at least one of them is not one and done. So that look out for LSU. They're here to stay.
Well, that'd be fun for you to watch on Saturday, right? Good teams right there.
Yeah.
Men's tennis, moving on with the men's tennis. They picked up a midweek match out of nowhere against Presbyterian. They got the quick news update with that one, 2 days ago. So that was just a surprise match coming up. They're coming off a 4-0 loss to Ohio State last weekend in Columbus, Ohio. So that's all the news we got for you guys. But I mentioned earlier about the Janey being excited about baseball coming back, kind of how a bunch of people, they go 1 week without football. They finally wrap it up, see the Super Bowl, typically their last game of the football season. And yet here we are, and the Alliance of American Football kicks off. I know mine was watching. He was talking about it at the meeting on Sunday, but I don't think Colin is exactly on board with it. But for those people that are not at all, he's shaking his head, not at all. So
I'm out on the AAF.
I watched 0 games.
You watched 0 games? Mine over here, you were watching though.
I watched about a quarter and some change. Yes. Yeah.
Well, what's y'all's thoughts on it? You saw that the Atlanta Legends team has a couple Georgia players on there with Aaron Murray, Damian Swan, and their old reliable punter Cam Nislak. When you're watching the game, Aaron Murray's not playing though, and kind of we're laughing about it now. There was a full-on discussion Sunday at our meeting about it, but why isn't the former Georgia quarterback playing? Who's starting for him?
Well, it was Matt Sims, who was at Tennessee for a little bit, was on NFL rosters for a little while, son of Super Bowl champ Phil Simms.
To be quite clear, was not good at Tennessee at all.
No, was not good. Very, very poor performance up there at Knoxville. But I guess he beat out Murray for the starting job, and then Aaron Murray, I believe, came in garbage time when Atlanta was out of the game in the fourth quarter. And
so Murray wasn't hurt, though?
No, I think he was fine. And a couple weeks, the Legends will have their home opener. I would be pretty surprised if Aaron Murray is not the starter then, because this is a league kind of built towards offense, catered towards offense. You can only blitz 5. There's no kickoffs to try and improve this player safety. And so a lot of NFL rules. Overtime is like college, though. And so it's a very offensive league. Should be interesting. I thought it had high production value, like they got the TV partners to buy in, so more people might have tuned in because it was on a known network. But, I don't know. Everyone knows that it's a developmental league. That's what the heads of the leagues are saying, that there's these guys in college that may not have made it in the NFL or were only practice squad guys. And the hardest thing to find are reps, somewhere where they can play football against competent competition. And so coming out and, you're not playing against superstars, but you're playing against people that have at least played this game at a pretty high level. And so just a way to refine your skills. They've got some pretty big names involved. Bill Polian, Hines Ward is in there, Director of Player Development. And so, I don't know, it's a developmental league. I think
minor leagues of football.
Yeah, would you ever think that you'd be watching minor league football? That's the crazy thing is I saw the stat where more people tuned in, though, to the AAF than midweek NBA basketball, though. I guess
their ratings on CBS, the game that lined up with the Thunder Rockets game,
which was a great game.
The Thunder Rockets game, which was awesome. Yeah.
Okay, but that's the first game.
That's what I was going to say.
You got to wait to see what
that will likely wear off, but still. Impressive.
Well, it's fun also seeing just the guys that you not too long ago watching play in college football, and then even coaching on the sidelines. Steve Spurrier with what was it? I know that killed mine. That was
the best part of the entire opening weekend for the AAF. Spurrier's got his headset on, football communication, where he's talking to the coaches or something. He gets out a walkie-talkie in his hand and just says into it, "Yeah, that was good. Well, how about you tell him to catch the ball next time?" I thought that was pretty funny. He was talking to a receiver. I'm not really sure.
He's got a walkie-talkie with the headset.
That's what baffled me.
So
but
what's the point?
I don't know. I guess the head ball coach is tuned in. He's talking to people all over the place. But I think that's part of it. Why people want to tune in. In Atlanta, Mike Vick was supposed to be the offensive coordinator. Brad Childress was going to be the head coach. Neither of those panned out. But you've still got players like Aaron Murray, Cam Nizelak, guys that register with a local fan base, and so that will draw some attention, at least for a while.
Well, reeling it back to, say, Georgia players and focusing on Georgia players, there's 4 total, or at least from what I saw, 4 players that at least recently played for Georgia that I saw on all the rosters of the teams on there. And the one that stands out for me was I saw that the Arizona Hotshots was a former number 1 player overall, 5-star Trent Thompson, after not making it in the league, after declaring early in his junior year and then kind of falling out after the Browns picked him up and undrafted. What is y'all's thoughts on seeing Trent Thompson back in this league, and any chance that he is gonna be able to use this to develop and then actually get it back into the NFL?
Trent Thompson is someone I can get behind with this little venture he's doing. He's in the history of the 247 Sports Composite, he's the only number 1 player to go undrafted. But when he was here at Georgia, he showed that why he was the number 1 player at times. His sophomore year in particular, he was very good. Up and down his junior year, battled some injuries, and then declared early, and it just didn't get picked and didn't stick for whatever reason. But the physical talents there, he even produced at an SEC school there for a bit. So there's ability there. If anyone can rebuild their stock in the AAF, it's him, because he's probably 23, 24, somewhere in there. Still very young, still very talented. And I think he is kind of like the measuring stick for how effective the AAF could be in helping guys get back to the NFL.
No, I saw that also. Trent Richardson. It's very regionalized with the players and in terms of college, and with also being in the South. Seeing him on the Hot Shots, Trent Thompson on the Hot Shots, kind of threw me off, because everyone else is, you went to Georgia, you're probably playing Atlanta. If you went to Alabama, you're probably playing in
Birmingham.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of surprising to see him out there. I'm like, well, all right, well, you do realize that you're halfway across the country over there from where you played college. Any other names? Trent Richardson, after his being selected number 3 or 4, top 5,
number 3 overall,
a couple of years ago.
Then was traded for a first-round pick after his rookie year, or during his second year.
Yeah.
but he just wasn't good in the NFL. He wound up
do you
being
think
slow, was criticized for being out of shape, got no vision. These were the criticisms of Trent Richardson in the NFL, and I believe he's a 1,000-yard rusher as a rookie, over 10 rushing touchdowns. So put up some numbers his rookie year with the Browns, but wound up not working out, crashing and burning in the NFL quickly. So we'll see. He's maybe the biggest name in the league. But yeah.
Well, I mean, we some partial watching. Colin's over here refusing to watch it, it seems like. But
I flipped it on.
You flipped it on, okay. So when you're looking at this league, are you like the rest of America where you're just wanting to watch football? Are there some things, they're definitely playing off the themes of, like, we're against the NFL. Where, do you like that aspect of it? Yeah, what are some parts to the league that you actually think are good for football? And
that's why I was curious to watch, because they are kind of like pushing back against the NFL, this whole thing, but I just can't really take this all that seriously if you're only allowed to bring 5 guys after the quarterback. Like, what are we doing? This is like backyard football. That's a backyard football type rule.
Yeah. But scratch that rule, everything else, though.
Well, they're letting their quarterbacks get decapitated, which I guess people like. I'm not sure. I saw on Twitter
is back.
Like the video of the quarterback getting his head taken off, and and I see the tweets. This is the way football was intended to be played. No, it wasn't. Football was intended to be entertaining, and you can be quite entertaining without killing your quarterbacks or giving them lifelong permanent brain damage. There are ways for football to be entertaining outside of that. If you just get off on big hits, I'm a combat sports fan. I watch fighting. Just watch fighting if you want to watch people get hit in the head. That is not what football is all about, let me just lunge at this guy's face. No, watch fighting if you want to watch people get hit in the face. Watch football if you want to watch good football.
This is the highlight of my week. I hope you know that, Colin. Just coming on the show and just talking and just listening to your takes. Honestly, we're glad that he's 100% riled up. But it does have like a backyard football feel. With what are some of the other rules? With there's no kickoffs.
No, so the onside conversion is 4th and 12 from your own 28 if you're down by 17 or more, or within 5 minutes left in the game. But I would agree with Colin and what he said earlier a little bit, that it's a developmental league, that you've got some guys that can be the measuring sticks, like Trent Thompson. Maybe Trent Richardson can put together a good little run. But it all comes down to who they can bring in as the coaches, who they can bring in to develop these players, because nobody does it on their own. You don't just sit there, as great, as talented, as high of a football IQ that you may have, you don't know every single thing that you can be doing to get better. And so if they can bring in some coaches that have some weight, that have been around, had some success, then maybe that'll be a good measuring stick. But at the end of the day, it's entertainment. It's what people want to watch. People will watch it.
Well, the way that they would get big is they're going to have to get notable quarterbacks into that league. In the 80s, really the NFL's never had any real competition, but the closest thing they had to it was the USFL in the 80s. And part of the reason was they were able to sign Jim Kelly coming out of college. He was drafted by the Buffalo Bills in the NFL. But then USFL came to him, and they're like, hey, where do you want to play? And I believe he played for their Houston franchise and was the MVP. They had some notable guys. I believe Herschel Walker played in the USFL as well. So you're going to have to get those big-time quarterbacks and running backs that people are going to want to pay attention to. Coaches, but you got to have the stars to attract the guys. And also going off on a tangent, no kickoff is a thing people have pined for in the NFL for the safety of the returner. So they're doing kind of a safety-first rule and no kickoff, but
then you can kill the
quarterback. You can actually break the quarterback's neck if you want. You can just suplex him.
We'll try and edit
it.
You could sweep the leg on the quarterback.
Sweep the leg, Johnny. I gotcha. Well, all right, Colin. I hope that we didn't just preface your loser of the week, but it's that time. It's your favorite time of the year. Of the year. No, sorry, the week.
Collins,
Colin looks pumped right now.
He's actually got arms crossed right now. Super excited for this. Favorite part of the week, not the year, and it's Colin's loser of the week.
Colin's loser of the week came to light last night. There's no one else. Well, it's hard to pin this loser of the week on one person, but there's one person to do it. It's Chris Mack, Louisville head coach. There is no other person or no other team that loser of the week can be focused on. Louisville, with 9 minutes and 13 seconds left against Duke last night, was up by 23 points, 59-36. Duke is dead in the water. You know, it cruised to the victory, and you blow a 23-point lead with a little over 9 minutes left. You turn it over 9 times after that point. That's a turnover per minute. If you do that the whole game, you turn it over 40 times. That's the rate they were turning it over.
That's not just Duke basketball turning up right there?
You're trapping. They were pressing. They changed their defense to press and trap. But, I mean, watching Louisville, it was sad. They could not do anything against the pressure. No one on their team wanted the ball. Every possession was, panic, hot potato, let's throw it around until Duke steals it. It was unreal. It was like watching an overmatched middle school team that didn't know how to deal with the press, something like that. And Duke came back and won. Duke did do some things to win the game. They were pressuring. Cameron Reddish hit some big shots. Zion Williamson was spectacular. Showed again why he's one of the best college freshmen that's ever played. But still, you blow a 23-point lead with 9 minutes left. That's a huge L. I've got an L on my forehead. I'm throwing up the L. What's that they do in Louisville? They throw up the L's. Well, put the L's on your forehead because y'all are the loser of the week.
And it was all at home.
All on your home court. It's blacked out. That place was lit. And nope. And then the most iconic thing of this game that is now it's a GIF going on Twitter. I believe it was one of the big Cameron Reddish threes. You got the camera shot. There's one Duke fan in the crowd cheering. Then the girl right in front of him shooting birds, the middle fingers at the Duke bench. You're number one. That is the most indicative thing of this. So Louisville, sorry. I do feel bad watching that because it was just sad to watch. But they're anything Louisville basketball is the only thing that could have been the loser of the week this week.
I'm just happy that game happened because who would you pick as your loser of the week if that wasn't the case?
Some honorable mentions. I don't even know.
Yeah, I was about to say
who it could be.
Thankfully, it was Louisville. This
week, say everything I had in mind was thrown out when I watched that. So.
Was that your first thought? You're like, gosh, I can't wait to get in the radio show tomorrow.
Well, yeah, I watched it. I was like, yep, that's my loser of the week. I mean, it's the biggest comeback in the Coach K era at Duke for the second half, and he's been there 70,000 years. So. Pretty historic moment.
Zion said after it, Coach K said, I don't coach losers. So
I only coach winners, yep.
I only coach winners. So there you go. I guess none of the Duke's players or Coach K will ever be on Collins Loser of the Week. So, but that's all we've got for you guys. Thanks for tuning in this week. We're going to have this up on SoundCloud, iTunes, wherever you get your podcast fix. But make sure we subscribe to our YouTube channels and for press conferences, interviews, and just more video coverage. We'll also have that up there. And tomorrow, being Thursday, Collins Wednesdays are sacrificed for you guys. So pick up a copy of the Red and Black tomorrow in the red bins across campus. But as always, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Adios.